and I want everybody to remember this face, right? This kid is definitely a little mad. So we're gonna jump on to the next topic or jump to the next topic. Um, the NBA. This is kid and uh, Rich's uh, forte for sure is basketball. So we want to talk about the NBA All Star break, and actually, the first thing we want to actually cover is All Star game. Do we care to watch? I'll let you guys chime in. Then why don't you
No,
jump in this topic? And
not
why
not
don't we care to watch?
well, because the league has become so prima donna. Like you can go on YouTube all day long and look at the All Star games from the past when Jordan and Kobe were still playing, and there was a level of competition that it was interesting and it was worth watching. Now it's I don't know. It's a microcosm of the mentality that Jimmy Jimmy Butler has displayed over the last few weeks. It's a level of entitlement. It's a level of I don't know. I don't know if they realize how privileged they are and how much it doesn't have to be this way. You can run. You can run your fans off. And the NBA is, in my opinion, they're. I mean, they hadn't hit the panic button, but a lot of what is going on is not looked at in the same way. It's hard to well, you got your old school fans that are holding on to their teams, but I just feel like the NBA needs to find a way to sharpen their image because a lot of people are watching and they're losing their love based on the way these players carry themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you? What anybody else have any input on that in terms of do we care to watch?
So P, I'm a big All Star Weekend fan, right? I've been watching it all my life and always still look forward to it. Um, but I've always looked at the game as an exhibition, right? And so in many ways, I don't get like all the kind of bashing of the game because it's an exhibition. Now, do I argue or disagree with Rich? No, I don't agree with the prima donna part of it. I agree that it's not worth watching. It's kind of it's become more of a skills competition than a basketball game, right? You get guys just not playing any level of defense and date that back to, 30 years ago. I mean, I'll always remember when Isaiah Thomas was one point guard, Magic Johnson was the other, and they just were surrounded by now Hall of Famers, and those guys took that game seriously. Today, this is not what it is, but that didn't bug me, right? It didn't turn me off for the weekend. I'll probably put the game on one TV and watch, TV, something else on another.
Yeah, that's kind of where I am. I mean, I remember growing up watching it was you had to see it, right? It was like no place else did you see that much talent on the floor, and you at least at that time you knew you were going to get at least a quarter's worth of competitive basketball because they started playing in the fourth. By that time, all the older guys had sat down. They let the young guys come in, and all the egos went out the door, and it became I'm going to win this game. And that because there was some motivation behind it. There was some bragging rights, and there's only so a paycheck for a winner back then. But it has progressed into more of a glorified pickup game, and I can see those walking. I can go walk out down the street to the local park and see that if I want to see it, and see some bad basketball. It's a glorified pickup game, but in the context of what it is, that's what I take it. I like Ken said, I'll watch it in the background. I'll be doing something else. Won't be locked in. We'll see some highlights. We'll see some crazy dunks. We'll see some alley-oops. We'll see some long three-pointers. We'll see some crazy assists. But the game don't matter anymore. And I think the players recognize that. and it becomes a show to celebrate the NBA for the weekend, along with the skills competitions, the rookies games, or the next gen game, or whatever they're calling it, incorporating the WNBA. So it's entertainment. Um, you watch the games for real basketball. You watch the good teams that are competitive for good basketball. The All Star, it's in the background.
Where I fall, it's kind of combination of what everybody said. The biggest thing with basketball, I think the game itself, I think it's like that with any All-Star game now. I don't care what sport it is. So I'm like with Ken on that. It's an exhibition game to me, so that doesn't bother me. I think it's about the weekends, about celebrating the game. It's cool having the players in the stands watching and enjoying with their families. I just wish they would let the street players do the dunk contest so you can find something new. Because if you're not gonna and it put money on the line where they're gonna come out and really compete, and you're gonna see some things you haven't seen. I think honestly, when people complain about it, I think that's the biggest thing they complain about. And I think once the stars start being in the dunk contest, I mean, if we can't get Ja, LeBron in his prime, once you start worrying about the money, how you gonna look, because like Hump was saying back in the day, you made your name by that. You look at Vince Carter. I mean, I think it took him to another level. I mean, think about those players who went to another level by competing in it. Now with social media, it's become, if I lose, then what? And once LeBron kind of bagged out of that, and then it made it okay for other players not to do it, I think that's where that went away. 3-point contest, you still got the dogs in it. I mean, even last year when they combined the WNBA player with Steph, it made a difference. It could, but I think if they did something different with the dunk contest, and I like bringing those street ball players who, hey, you on YouTube, you see it all the time. It would make a difference. And my last thing is what Rich was saying. It's one of the fewer sports where there's only 5 players on the court, so one or two players can affect the whole game. And that's what's tough about basketball and changing the dynamic where the NBA has to do something because no other sport can one or two players get together, go where they want to go, have 2 years to 3 on the contract and do what Butler's doing. And it's easy to do in basketball. And that because of the numbers, because one or two players makes a difference. And so they need to figure something out because you don't want to lose that, that shine that it had, that love of the game. Because I mean, look at Luca. I mean, for what Luca did, think about it. If I'm a Dallas fan, if Luca was in Detroit, they're like having Isaiah Thomas leave in his prime. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's who you knew in your mind for the next 10, 12 years. That's my dude. And now it's still my team, but that love, I mean, it hurts. And it's one of the few sports where you see that happen. And and that's another story altogether with the whole Lucas situation. But for that to happen, you don't see that in other sports. It's crazy.
I agree.
So where does the NBA stand at All Star break? What are we thinking in terms of what we're seeing and what the second half is going to look like? And I'm not a huge NBA fan necessarily, but Rich kind of touched on something I think for sure. But where do you guys see the NBA at this point in the season? All Star break. Yep, Ken. Whoever wants to chime in, feel free.
Okay.
Go ahead, Rich.
I just think OKC's going to take the
Yeah, you're breaking up a little bit, Rich.
I'm done. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. You go ahead. You're clear, I think.
I was just saying that I think OKC is going to win the whole thing. They just by far seem like the superpower in the NBA. They just
seems to be the consensus, right?
You got Chet Holmgren back. They already were playing great. Now you add that extra component. I just don't see anybody beating them, barring any injuries.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be interesting as we get closer. I think the stretch run is gonna be amazing, right? I think because if you look at the I think the difference between like 6 and 11 in the West is like 3 games or something like that, and it's super competitive. I think it's interesting. I like OKC too, but I wouldn't put money on it at all, right? Because be it they mess around, catch like Luca and say LeBron on a heater, and they could take them out, right? I don't know what's going to happen, to be honest with you, which is why I'm excited. I think in the East it's a little clearer. Boston, Cleveland, and New York. So, but the West is wide open, I think.
So I've got a question, kind of an impromptu, something that wasn't on the agenda. Is the NBA lacking star power? Because when I watch the NBA now, the skill level is through the roof, right? You mentioned OKC. They got a kid on OKC that's due for like a super max coming up, right? That he's supposed to be that kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like the NBA has a lack of people watch the NBA not necessarily for the games all the time. It's really for the stars, star power. I don't know if the NBA has any the young star power. Seems like they fumbled it. They fumbled the bag. What's my man's name down in New Orleans? Zion Williamson fumbled the bag. The kid in Memphis. Well, they didn't fumble the bag, but they kind of that star power. I just don't see anybody that has that steps outside of basketball that makes people say, I want to watch. That's just how it seems to me. And I'm just a casual fan. That's how it is for me. I haven't watched a game I maybe watched part of a game, but I just don't see a whole lot of it. That's my viewpoint. What do you guys think about that?
I'll jump in real quick. I don't typically watch NBA until like after Christmas. So start of season, I'm not even paying attention. And then the playoffs with NFL is happening. I kind of passively watching, but now I'm starting to get into it. And to answer your star power question, Paul, there are stars out there. The league tries to do a decent job of promoting them. But what I've noticed is a lot of those guys aren't really dynamic, right? Like Jason Tatum. Like Jason Tatum is a superstar in the league, right?
Correct.
Jason Tatum don't have a dynamic personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you got Brown on the team who is a very intellectual dude, but he's not dynamic. And I say he's not dynamic. He's not dynamic. They're not dynamic in the ways that people want them to be dynamic. Charles Barkley, right?
Right.
Solid player. All-star. I know Ken hates him. But
Philly.
He gave you talking points, and he was a wild boy. So he was dynamic. People either love him or you hate him.
And Dennis Rodman.
MJ goes without saying. Isaiah Thomas. Those guys were superstars. So you have those superstars now, but they don't have dynamic personalities that make you want to I'm dropping everything I'm going to do to watch. We're in a transition right now. LeBron's kind of on his way out. Even KD, who is like one of the best skilled big men that ever played a freaking game.
30,000 points.
He is going to exit the league, and everybody's going to keep moving on. There ain't nobody going to hardly pause. And he's probably going to be one of the best players that ever done it. Right. Yep. So it's just that level of dynamic that personality the lay fan can't relate to.
Right. And I can't. To me, it's like even Wemby. He's going to be a great player, but can he carry the lead? Who's going to carry the lead? And I just don't know. From where I'm standing, I don't know who seems like they're ready to step up and do that.
Yeah, I like the trend that is happening here, right? The one thing I love the NBA my whole life, but the one thing I just felt was always the problem is how much they rode the dynamic personalities and created, characters, right? That then had charisma, so to speak. Some of it fake, right? Some of it
manufactured.
manufactured, right? And like a Charles Barkley, right? That's why I'm whatever. He's the worst. This is the only sport where we ask it to be about their charisma rather than the game and the skill. And like, think about what you said about Wemby. Wemby, I agree with you. He's probably in the charisma. He's in the right place in San Antonio because the guys who came before him, Tim Duncan, David Robinson, they were light on charisma. But you have never seen anything as skilled as what that guy is, right? And that is plenty. That is plenty to celebrate. That is plenty to advance. That's plenty to put on TV. Because if we make it about the sport,
I disagree.
But that's not what the lay fan turns in for, though. And that's the difference. I think that's where Paul's question is going. Who's going to carry it? And they carry the league on what the lay fan is going to turn in to watch the game for, not what the purists like yourself and Rich are, who recognize that skill level. A lot of folks don't know what that skill level is, and they're not tuned in for that.
But I was going to say, we've seen that skill level. It just didn't meet the viewer. This is the thing. I blame the league for not cultivating and finding a way to, you had the battle between Larry and Magic, and people followed it because it was a competitive battle from college to pro. But what I was going to say about never seeing anybody like Wemby, Bol Bol has those kind of skills. He just, number one, doesn't have the charisma and didn't have the following to bring. Man, that dude can come down that floor with the rock just like a Wemby. He's good. I don't know if you've seen him play. Bol Bol is nice. I think when you get into certain situations, coaches don't acknowledge what the people bring to the table. That dude, was he 7'1", 7'2"? Come on, kid.
Bol Bol.
Yeah.
Bol Bol has skills, but what I've noticed about him, and especially if you compare him to Wemby, he ain't played as much basketball as Wemby. And I don't know what his work habit is. I don't even know when he started playing basketball, but just watching him, I could tell it's not as natural as it is with Wemby. That's just my viewpoint.
Well, I'll say this. Wemby is more polished when it comes to in the lane and whatnot. But what I'm saying is somebody with the rock, that height, that can run the floor, it's not that rare. I just feel like Bol Bol didn't fit the description of what they wanted to attach the NBA thing to. Now, I agree with you. Wemby is far more polished. He's far more polished, but it's not. I mean, I don't know. I guess I watched this one game where Bol Bol was doing it all, and I was like, "That's Wemby." But anyway,
he has flashes of brilliance. I have seen that. That's for sure.
Yeah. Well, I can't. I'm not going to comment on Bol Bol, but I would say that if Wemby wins, he has the making because they want the game to be international. So if Wemby finds a way to win like Duncan did, and I think he has more personality than Duncan too. I think he's young and finding himself, but I can see him come out of it. He got a little dog in him. If you watched him in the Olympics, or if you watched the game, I forget who he played the other night, he'll look at you. He doesn't back down from anybody. So I think he's still finding himself, but he had the look, which again, when Bobo don't have that look. But they're two different players.
That's cold. That's cold.
I can't believe we put Bobo in the conversation. Come on, Huck. When you say he didn't play, come on, man. His father was Manute Bol, who played in the league. Bobo been around.
University of Bridgeport, baby.
Well, forgive me, kid. I think I got mesmerized by one game.
Again. Bol Bol and Wemby in the same. Come on.
So let me ask you guys. Go ahead, continue, Rich. Go ahead, continue.
I was going to say, I just think that Bobo didn't have the look that they wanted to say, because he's amazing too. I mean, when you think about what he can do with the rock at that height. Now, is he as polished as Wemby? No, but I'm telling you, I sat and watched the game and could not believe what he was doing with the rock.
Rich, I'll leave it with this, and this is I've said this about numerous players that when you are gifted and it's a natural talent, you're not thinking through what your next move is. Wemby has a natural talent the way he does things from a reaction standpoint because he's done them so many times. He's drilled them so many times. I look at Bol Bol and a lot of other players like him who have flashes of brilliance, but their game seems calculated. Like they have to think about what their move is going to be. And I think that's the biggest difference when you start talking about that natural talent and where they're playing the game, they're just adjusting to what happens to them. Bol Bol, he can make a move. He'll have something in his mind, and it could be a great move. But if that defensive player shuts off his first option, he's stuck. He's looking for a pass. As opposed to a natural player who's like, I'm just reacting to what you do. Either you're going to give me the shot, I'm going to go by you, or I'm going to make a pass because it's a flow of the game. And I think there's a lot of players in the league who are like that, where you can see that natural talent versus you can see I call it the fabricated talent. You see it a lot more in the college than you see the pro.
The look on kid's face. He can't believe we said Bol Bol this many times.
I can't believe we still talking about Bol Bol.
He can't believe.
Bol Bol.
He can't believe.
But hey, I'm kind of watching Bol Bol to that game. Like I still can't believe he's talking about.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave that to the experts. I know who he is, but I've never really seen him play. I heard he,
and you ain't missed nothing.
He's decent.
That's why you ain't seen it.
Look, well, as a closing comment from my end, somebody told me I was supposed to be fair and impartial. I'm probably not very fair and impartial, but either way, it seems like the NBA is kind of at the point where I felt like the WNBA used to be. They had a lot of skilled players. I've seen women's basketball, college, pro. They've always been very skilled. Before Caitlin Clark got to the WNBA, they had people that could play, but they just didn't have a vehicle. They didn't have stars. They didn't have superstars. I kind of feel like the NBA might be getting to that point because the older stars the older guys that were superstars are getting older. You know, you got the guys that should be superstars now. I just don't see them there. But that's just, again, from a casual point of view. But let's move on.
You got to ask your sons about this. I mean, the problem is we're all over 50. This is a generational conversation. And if KJ was here, he'd tell us we were tripping. So
maybe.
Especially about the Bol Bol comments.
Especially about that part.
Hey, but he's a basketball fan, though, right?
Absolutely.
He's a basketball fan. So I'm talking about just the average casual walk down the street, might watch a game or two. It'll be interesting to see where the NBA goes in the next few years. But let's just jump to our last.
Stop, look, and listen. Enjoy the vibe. Me and my peoples, we keep it live. So take a toke or take a sip. Hold up, don't take a sniff. I hope you're feeling this deep in your bones. What you been missing? A mellow tone. Not from the city or from your hood. I got you smiling and feeling good. The show is done. Relax a bit. I hope the people will fuck with it. Open your mind, open your heart. Dialogue will hopefully start. But if not, we'll say we tried. We didn't run, we didn't hide. We love this world, the people too. We did it all just for you. Out.